And here with reaction to all of last night's drama is the former Alaska governor, Fox News contributor Sarah Palin. Governor, welcome back. Good to see you. You got out of town pretty fast.
I did. Had more work to do.
Fair enough. All right. I want to look. If I were to give an estimate right now, it's somewhere 65, 66 seats thereabouts by the time all the numbers are counted. But what we know is this, is the Republicans picked up more House seats than in any election since 1938. What does that tell you?
Well, we cannot dismiss the magnitude of this earthquake, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and even your introduction there, hearing the victorious candidates give their speeches afterwards, it just gives me goosebumps, and it just makes us so proud to be American, knowing that the process works. Our democracy is strong. It's a we the people voice that was heard last night. Great gains, too, on state levels. 19 legislatures flipped and lots of gubernatorial gains. This is very, very strong all across America, not just on the federal level.
You know, but you look at this historically, though. I mean, 1994, we call it the Republican Revolution. You know, this was bigger than that. This was bigger than the Republican, quote, revolution in 1946. You know, even in 2006, when the Republicans lost 30 seats, that was referred to as a landslide. So I guess the question is, what do you think this is about? Is this a referendum on Obama? Is this the end of Obama's agenda? Does it stop in its tracks? Do you think the Republicans sent that, the country sent that message last night?
It had better stop in its tracks because, yes, that's exactly what the message was last night, was no more big spending, tax and spend, government overreach, government regulation, government thinking it's going to know best and how to get our economy back on the right track in the midst of these measures that really squash the opportunities for our private sector. No more of that, no more business as usual. So the message was sent, and now it's a matter of the victors, the common sense conservatives who are in there now in control of the House, firing Nancy Pelosi, thank goodness, being able to tell the liberals, well, you know, you can come along on the right and we will not be so rude and disrespectful as to tell you to jump in the back of the proverbial bus. You can ride up front and you can, Harry, you can toot the horn, but you can't touch the steering wheel. You cannot touch the accelerator or the brake because now it's we the people who are in charge.
All right, let's look at some of these state races. You were a governor, so I think you know the significance of all of this. Last night, the Republicans did not lose a single gubernatorial race. They picked up 10 seats overall in states that I think historically, you know, maybe might have been trouble. Ohio's one, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Nevada, Tennessee, Oklahoma. And overall, Republicans took over a net of at least 19 legislative chambers. They gained more than 500 legislative seats. What does that mean, especially with redistricting now coming?
Okay, every 10 years the reapportionment comes up, and that allows a state to decide which districts will be represented per number of people in their state legislatures, and it affects the Electoral College and everything else. So it's huge. But really what these gains in the gubernatorial level and state legislature level means is that we can reform America on the state level, and the government that governs closest to the people is the most responsible and responsive. So you make great gains there, and it's going to affect the next decade of gains that can further be made, and that will help on a national level, too, to turn this country around.
You know, it's amazing to listen to some of the pundits and critics out there of the Tea Party movement. They're like, well, Harry Reid hung on in Nevada, and Christine O'Donnell didn't win, and Buck just lost by a very small margin in Colorado, and then Alaska. We don't know what's going to happen in Alaska. Your analysis, why do you think some of those Tea Party candidates weren't able to pull it out in the end?
Well, look what happened there in Delaware. It's a deep, deep blue state, and Christine O'Donnell did well for as much as she had thrown at her. You know, we have to admit that the GOP establishment, especially in her own state, they never got on board with her. So she had a lot of things thrown at her, and she did the best that she could, and you know, she had a good run anyway. But polls show that even Mike Castle, whom she had defeated in the primary, would have lost to Mr. Coons, the victor in the overall in the general. So, you know, I don't buy the premise at all that, well, had not such a conservative candidate surfaced after the primary and we would have had a rhino in there instead, a more liberal-leaning Republican, then perhaps they could have taken that Delaware seat. I don't buy that premise, and the polls prove that out.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's go to Alaska. Obviously, and I think I've sort of dubbed this the sore loser Republican syndrome. Mike Castle wouldn't even endorse Christine O'Donnell in Delaware. We saw it didn't work out for Charlie Crist too well down in Florida. But we had Lisa Murkowski running as a write-in. We may not know the outcome of this race for a week and a half or so. What do you think about what happened up there in the final hours? Joe Miller seemed to have a pretty good lead. She decided to kind of go against the will of the people in the primary. Where do you think this ends up?
Yeah, it is a sore loser thing that happened up there. See, Lisa Murkowski is part of a 30-year Murkowski dynasty up there. Her dad gave her the seat as a U.S. Senator. When he was replaced, he became governor, and then I beat him in the gubernatorial race to replace him. But Lisa was given that seat some years ago and has really felt entitled to that. She had said, though, during the GOP primary that, yes, she would endorse the winner, and then she flip-flopped on that. And that's kind of her mode of operation is flip-flopping around. But anyway, after the GOP primary where Joe Miller did surface as the victor, that was the will of the people, she decided that she would go around the will of the people and try a different tactic to get in there. So she gained a lot of Democrat support, a lot of union boss support, and so many special interests coalesced around her to get her in there, because it's obvious that the special interests who rely on federal funding solely to survive, they're going to look for her to feed their trough.
Do you think there's any chance she caucuses with the Democrats?
Certainly there is a chance, and she has not been definitive on that, but I implore her to do what's right for the people of Alaska, not her own political gain, but for the people of Alaska and America, to stick there with the common sense conservatives, as difficult as it may be for her, to make sure that she's caucusing with the Republicans.
All right.